What percentage of the shots you don't take do you miss?
This is 508, a show about Worcester. It's November the 30th, 2018. I'm Mike Benedetti. This is Brendan Malikan. This is Katie Burt, and our guest today is Megan Myers, forward for the Worcester Blades Canadian Women's Hockey League team. Megan, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you guys?
I'm doing good. Katie's been on here in the past, pop culture journalist Katie Burt.
Hello, everyone.
Also, fan of women's hockey, Katie Burt.
Casual hockey fan.
So now you're sitting next to the forward for the Worcester professional women's hockey team.
I know, it's very cool.
What do you want to ask?
Well, first of all, I want to say how excited I am to have the Worcester Blades in Worcester. I went to the home opener, and so far that's the only game I've made it to, but I definitely want to come back. I think for maybe some of our listeners, they don't know as much about the Worcester Blades. They're new to Worcester this year. Can you talk a little bit about the history of the team and how you came to be on it?
Yeah, for sure. So we're the Worcester Blades. We were formerly the Boston Blades of the CWHL, which is the Canadian Women's Hockey League. Ironic because we were an American team, but we were the only American team in the league. The other teams are Calgary, Markham, which is outside of Toronto, Montreal, and then Kulin Red Star, which is a Chinese team. So we get to go to China once a year and play them, and they come over here. So we were the Boston Blades. I started after college. I came in 2015. Played on a team full of gold medalists, Olympians, to name a few name drops. Hillary Knight, Brianna Decker, Tara Watchhorn, both Canadian and American Olympians, all coming together, play on one team the year after the Olympics. So it was kind of crazy to play with superstars like that. So I come in, I play on the team. We do really good the whole year, and then we win the Clarkson Cup. So the Clarkson Cup is like the Stanley Cup of women's hockey. So we won it that year. Again, we were unpaid when I came into the league. All professional hockey players at that time were unpaid. Have been playing for the last 4 years. We started getting paid last year, which is huge for professional women's sports and professional women's hockey in general. So yeah, this is my 5th year on the team. I'm the captain of the team, and I'm excited to be in Worcester because I've been living in Worcester for 4 years, so this is perfect for me.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, I mean, I don't know, is this the only professional women's hockey league in the world? What other sorts of opportunities are there?
Yeah, so Canadian Women's Hockey League has been a league for about 12 years now. So we were the first to really promote girls hockey past the college level. This is a good place for all the Olympians to play in between Olympic years, to play each other, to play at the highest competition you can get. As of last year, the NWHL joined on, which is the National Women's Hockey League. So they have a Buffalo team, a Connecticut team, a Boston team, and a New York team. So those 4 teams joined onto the scene, started their own league with their own investors, and now there's 2 leagues. So they're kind of, the CWHL and NWHL kind of butt heads in that way, that we have these best players, women's hockey players in the world, and now we're playing in separate leagues when we could just play in one and have one league full of the best. So yeah, there is another league that is in Boston. They're called the Boston Pride. Which is another reason why I think our move to Worcester was perfect. No one wants to share a hockey city, especially with another women's professional team. We're already sharing with the Bruins, any college hockey team in Boston. So moving to Worcester was perfect for us to gain more community here, and I think we have.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what has it been like being in Worcester? Like, how has it been different as opposed to, it sounds like you moved around a lot in the greater Boston area before coming here.
Yeah, so when I joined on, we had a new rink and a new coach, and ever since I've been with the Blades, we've had a new rink and a new coach. And then when the opportunity to move to Worcester came along, I was like, this is perfect. We're moving to Western Massachusetts, closer, central Massachusetts, and we're in an area where there's not a lot of women's hockey, not a lot of girls hockey, and not a lot of exposure to women's professional sports. So I think moving to Worcester was perfect for us. We joined on, the announcement came out, and immediately the city was behind us. People were calling the rink, asking for shirts. Like we're like, whoa, we don't even have a logo yet. Can't buy a shirt. People are asking for season tickets. We play at the Fidelity Bank Worcester Ice Center, and they had it on their huge banner welcoming us. We had a media day, and we had some youth girls come by and ask for autographs. We had media. And in my 5 years of being with the Blades, that's the most community attention I think we've gotten since we were in Boston sharing that city with a bunch of other hockey teams. So it's been awesome. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Worcester. I love living here. I'm proud to be a resident here, and it was pretty cool to see the community come behind us so quickly. And even I go to Pier Hockey in Marlborough, and there's little girls walking around, and I'm wearing my Worcester Blades shirt, and they ask me for an autograph.
That's so cool.
Like, that's so cool. If I was walking around a Pier Hockey in Boston, I don't think it would be the same way, sadly. But the people in Worcester have really come to our games, and they've really supported us, and they're buying our apparel and really buying into women's hockey around here. So it's awesome.
On the amateur side, what does that landscape look like now? Like when it comes to youth women's hockey, girls hockey, like in this region?
There's a lot actually now with the new rink that's been built downtown, which is amazing. When I first moved here 4 years ago, we just had the rink on Lake Ave. We've had Holy Cross and then Marlborough. So I think putting the Fidelity Bank Worcester Ice Center right in the heart of the Canal District was perfect. And now they host the Lady Crusaders girls hockey program, and little girls from the ages of 5 and up play 19U. And then we have the Minutemen Flames from Marlborough, and there's Springfield Falcons. They have a team. So there is a bunch of girls hockey in the area. I just don't think they had much to watch women's hockey. Then they had to drive to Boston and watch it all the time. And so now we get little girls coming to our games and skating on the ice with us. I think they're at our home opener, skating on the ice around with us. So it's good. There is so much growth in youth hockey. I think women's hockey is the highest growing sport in the country right now. And you can see it in every youth program. There's girls joining every day. So I think that's the best part about it.
And you already lived in Worcester when the announcement was made that the team was coming here. You're an assistant coach for the Becker College women's hockey team. So did any of your teammates like come to you and ask for advice, or were they like, what do you think of this? Or you maybe were extra excited?
Yeah. Oh, I was so fired up. So I'm part of the CWHLPA as I was last year. And I was the captain last year as well. So they kind of were like thinking of where we're going to move, what we're going to do. And Worcester came about, and I'm like, yes, like absolutely, this needs to be looked into. I think it's going to be a great idea. And then all my teammates are like, well, Myers, like it's 45-minute drive from Boston. I'm like, let me tell you, it's worth it. The drive coming to games is so worth it. Moving to Worcester and having a brand new community to support us is worth it. I've got a bunch of my teammates to move here. I'm like renting out my space for them to like stay with me, and I'm like, but they love it. They're all super excited about it. They're really buying into Worcester, and they hang out here more than I think they even expected. So it's good.
Yeah, and you're from Las Vegas, and we were talking before we started recording about how you're the only woman from Nevada to play professional hockey so far. And I'm just curious about just like the cultural differences, surrounding hockey for a place like Las Vegas and Nevada versus New England. Like, what was it like for you moving here? And I'm assuming it was like one of your first like new places after your hometown or your home experience. Yeah, so I grew up in Vegas, played a lot of street hockey growing up. I mean, it's 100 degrees outside every single day almost, and that's the best thing to do. And then my dad let me try skates on, and then he didn't have any equipment for me because he's like, my daughter's not going to play hockey. Like, we're in Las Vegas, there's one ice rink. And I'm like, you got to put me out there. So he gave me like catcher equipment, like the leg pads, put those on my legs, and then put socks over them. I looked so ridiculous, but I got on the ice, and he said you were just wheeling around out there, and it kind of sent off from there. And then played boys hockey in Vegas for a while because there wasn't girls hockey programs. We had about 3 girls playing hockey in Vegas at the time. And then after that, I went to college at Utica College in Central New York. So that was my first experience of like snow and like having to buy a snow jacket and kind of like the East Coast vibe. And then right when I was about to end my college career, I was like, I want to move to Boston. There was like plenty of opportunity for me to go playing the other markets up in Canada, but I'm like, Boston, I've always wanted to live there. I've always wanted to live in New England. So made the trek over here, lived in Boston for a year, loved it. But it's a completely different environment. But it's crazy to come from a place that's not a hockey place to a place that's crazy about hockey, which I love. Hockey's my life, so being supported and surrounded by so much of it is fantastic.
I think it's time for us to go to a commercial break. Hey, all you juggalos, libertarians, eclectic changemakers, and passionate Worcesterites, this is the 508 Show. We'll be back after these messages with faster than a struggling turtle, more powerful than Gary Rosen, able to leap tall juggalos in a single bound. Look, down on the ground. It's a germ, it's a worm, it's 508. bursting from the subterranean depths of Wormtown like the mighty Shai Halud. It's 508, a show about Worcester. Today with me, Michael Benedetti, Brendan Melican, Katie Burt, and Megan Myers from the Becker women's hockey team and the Worcester Blades hockey team. Megan, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
You all are playing in... I think I wrote this down, but I don't remember. You guys are playing... Where are you playing? You're playing Montreal?
Yep,
this weekend.
In Montreal.
In Montreal.
And Toronto the next weekend?
Toronto, yeah.
In Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And then are you back in Worcester?
Nope, back in Toronto area playing Markham. So 3 Canadian road trips in a row.
And then are you back in Worcester?
Back in Worcester in January after the new year.
Okay. And you're playing. you've played some at the Worcester Ice Center and some at the DCU Center. Do you know where the next game's going to be?
I think it's at the Worcester Ice Center again.
Cool.
That's your official home.
That's our official home rink, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So did you play at the DCU, was it a doubleheader with the Worcester Railers?
Yeah, so we played at 5 o'clock, and then the Railers played at like 7:30, which was cool because, I mean, we got a lot of fans, but then like our game started going on longer, and all the Worcester Railers fans started coming in for their game, and it looked packed a little bit for a while there. But it was good. It was fun to be a part of the Worcester Railers experience, and then we got to stay for the game after, which was pretty awesome.
Do you interact with those players a lot? Do you run into each other?
I only see them because I'm at the Worcester Ice Center almost every day of my life for a couple hours. But I see them in passing, but no, not really.
Yeah.
I would love to see them more. I don't see them enough, I don't think.
If you had the opportunity to talk to somebody who might be a fan of men's hockey but had never seen a women's hockey game, how would you introduce it to them in a way to either get them to expect what differences are out there or the similarities, the crossovers? Like I'm gonna have to assume out on the professional level that there's still some noticeable differences in terms of style of play, gameplay, and whatnot. But I've actually never seen a women's hockey game. That's like, and I would love to know, like, from your perspective, like what some of the changes and what the differences are.
I would say the only change, if you watch an NHL game, there's open ice hitting, and hitting's very prevalent. And, big hits. We still hit. Basically, I think it's the same exact game. It's a very finesse game, very quick, all about hands because we can't hit, but there's hitting. Like we almost had an all-out brawl last weekend against Montreal, and like you very rarely ever see that. But if you watch the Olympics every 4 years, you watch Canada and the U.S. play. It's probably the most physical hockey game, women's hockey game you'll ever see. It would be like watching the NHL. They check, they're physical. I would say there's not much of a difference besides the fact that like I can't run up and open ice crush someone. But it's a very fast-paced game. I love anyone who hasn't watched it to see it because it's very people would be surprised of how good we are. Yeah.
Where does that change come from? Not allowing open checking.
I don't know, but I wish it was real. Because I have the body type for it, I think. Very physical. I love to hit. I like to finish checks. I played boys hockey. Most of us have. Yeah. When you're a women's hockey player, you played boys hockey at least once in your life. And, I mean, why can't we? We do it anyway, just not in the way that the NHL players does.
That's kind of why I was asking. The thought in the back of my head was, I'm fascinated watching data pop up about sports and sports injuries. And I think anyone that's familiar with contact sports is aware of like CTE and the data that's been starting to come out. But the thing that I think is most interesting about a lot of that data is that if you have comparable male-female sports, oftentimes it's the female sports that have greater levels of injury. Right. So like at the high school level, it's female soccer has the highest level of concussion, CTE, and whatnot of any semi-full contact sport. That's kind of what I was curious about. Is like, is there even enough data to collect on like the hockey side of things? Like that's when you said there was no full checking, but that's just the way it's always been. Like it's not, so it's probably not based on some degree of data that there was anything going sideways. It just somebody decided, hey, we don't want to see these young ladies begging each other up, and that's kind of silly.
I don't get it. I've talked to this with a couple people. I'm just like, I don't understand why you just won't let us check in quotations, because we do hit each other very hard, and it's a very physical game. But like, if say I hit someone open ice, then I get a checking penalty. But why? You're already letting me hit Susie in the boards over there, but you won't let me hit her at center ice. It just doesn't make sense.
I think we need to figure out a way to kidnap all the leadership of your league and lock them in a room and force them to watch women's MMA until they just come to their senses and realize that.
I know.
Yeah.
And I think I had you probably know more about this than I do, but in relation to those statistics, or not even statistics, that it can be more dangerous because women and girls aren't training and learning with this more physical component or this aspect, and that actually can make it more dangerous. I don't know if
Right, like you're holding back almost.
Right.
I'm going into a corner with someone and I'm now hesitating to go. And if you watch men's hockey, they go full force, and also the guys who are getting hit know what's going to happen.
Right.
So like in the women's game, you never know what's going to happen. You could get checked and then it's a penalty, or you don't because people are hesitating.
Huh.
When in the men's game, it's clear cut. You know you're going to get hit every single time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you see any difference in style and play because you have this Chinese team, and I'm assuming it's not all Chinese players on this team, but just like in the way that the game is played with them, or if it is very similar because they're like coming into this league?
Yeah, no, it's very similar. The Chinese team got put in because I think it's Beijing or is hosting the Winter Olympics in 2022. So they put their team in our league to grow their women's hockey program to make them good enough to compete. Their team has about 8 imports, so North American players who are very, very good, go over there and help transform this team and make them very competitive. So it is very competitive. They're good, and it's basically the same game. I think the North American players being over there is very helpful to the Chinese players, like get up to the style and get up to the speed of level of play that needs to be had. So
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that you guys get to go to China.
it's so fun.
And you guys have already made that trip. You were the first team
to
this
go.
year. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we left on a Saturday and at 4 a.m. to get to the airport. Got to the airport, left at 6, and then it was a 28-hour travel day from there to fly to Toronto, then Toronto, Hong Kong. Got to Hong Kong, and we stayed in Shenzhen, so we had to take a ferry boat to a bus to get to the mainland China. Had 3 games while we were over there, stayed in a very nice 5-star hotel, walkable distance to the rink, walkable distance to the best dumplings I've ever had in my life down this like sketchy looking alley, but it was awesome. We had 3 days off to go sightseeing. We went to Hong Kong for the day. We did the Black Market, which is like the biggest mall with the most shops you'll ever see, and I bought these white Converse, brand new. I think they might be fake, but got them for like $10 American, $10 American dollar over there. So we went pretty crazy on the shopping front. The rink is huge over there, 3,000 fans. Like they packed the house. Yeah. I had to do the puck drop though because I'm the captain and it was all in Chinese. And if they didn't say my name, I'm like, you want me to go? Like everything's. But it was pretty crazy. It's a fun trip. It's a good team bonding trip. I think it was perfect to have it in November because we just started in September, October. So it was good for us to like get to know each other. We were stuck together for a week, got to practice and play together. So it was super fun. That's my second time, so I can't wait to go back next year.
Yeah, I'm like, we need to have a Worcester contingent of fans go to the Chinese hockey
absolutely.
game. So that's
You're
going
to pick up the tab for us, right?
I thought this radio show was going to sponsor
We're
that.
going.
Yeah. You guys can broadcast live from there.
Oh, perfect.
I mean, the time difference would be probably like 2 a.m. here, but I mean, get a couple viewers, late night viewers.
I wanna ask a question. There's been a lot of Worcester news this week, actually, and some of the biggest news involved the Worcester Redevelopment Authority. And there's a connection between the Worcester Redevelopment Authority and Worcester women's hockey in that the Worcester Ice Center, originally their idea was that it was going to be, across from the library, replace the parking lot with it? Do you remember this?
Yeah, that was
the plan originally, and then there was a lot of pushback on this, so they were like, okay, we'll let the library have a parking lot, or maybe we'll do the ice thing somewhere else. But a big part of it was, and some people were like, why are you even talking about doing anything for like hockey rinks? Like, we have hockey rinks, we have like ice everywhere, like aren't we doing fine? And the people on the other side were like, no, there's this big shortage of rinks. Is there a shortage of rinks?
I mean, I thought so when I first got here. I mean, I started coaching Becker when I got here in 2015, and we had to drive to Marlborough every day. So we'd load up 18 girls in a 6-passenger van, 8-passenger van, and load up all their equipment and drive them to Marlborough to and from the rink every day, which in Worcester, like you guys had the Ice Cats, right? And you had the Sharks, and we have the DCU Center, and it's such a big hockey community. Why do we have to drive to Marlborough? So I think a rink in Worcester is perfect, and I think having the Worcester Railers and having us here is awesome for the community, and like we should have a rink here. Yeah. We have Becker, we have Worcester State, we have Worcester Academy, we have Anna Maria now has a women's hockey team. So like why don't we should have a rink in Worcester that they can all play, and WPI is a club team. So now Worcester Ice Center hosts the Worcester State Becker College, WPI, St. Peter Marion, and Worcester Academy. Like all those teams were going to either Lake Ave or Marlborough before. This is perfect place now that we can all come together.
All these teams are playing games there?
Yeah.
Is there like a game every day?
Have you not been in the Ice Center?
I haven't. No.
So this is the thing. So you need to actually spend a couple hours just hanging out there. I was there for a meeting last night. It's like, when I got there, both parking lots were full. When I left, both parking lots are full.
Mm-hmm.
Kids coming and going, adults coming and going. I mean, that's the thing that I had the hardest time understanding when people were complaining about a hockey rink in Worcester, location aside. At the time, I was working out in Boston, and most of the guys that I worked with were on either adult pickup teams that were traveling to Marlborough from Dorchester every night of the week just for ice time, oftentimes upwards of 2 o'clock in the morning, just to get amateur ice time. They're kids from Dorchester. The closest rink time they could get was Marlborough. I mean, it's absurd how much it's, as you said, in terms of growth, it's kind of the only youth sport in terms of growth. You might have there's trends in things like rock climbing and whatnot, but super small. When you look at the number of bodies coming into youth and adult hockey, there's absolutely no question that we need more constantly. Unfortunately, there's just a disconnect because if you're not, I fully admit, hockey's not my thing. If you're not in that universe, but then you find yourself in it, like again, I had a bunch of coworkers that were all these old school Dorchester guys. That's all they did was play hockey. They were the guys that built 2x4 frames in their backyards, and every single backyard in Dorchester has a hockey rink all winter long in the backyard. That's all anybody does. But if you're not part of that culture, you just don't see it until you actually go down to the rink. And you got to go down there, grab a coffee sometime, and just spend a couple hours walking around the space and realize how many people are coming and going, and people that aren't from here that are coming and going. It's pretty impressive.
Brendan Melican, tell me this, since you're aware of the trends here, why are the youth attracted to hockey?
You're probably better suited to No, I mean it's just another team sport that I think has bubbled up and grabbed a lot of attention, and also I think it's been able to kind of parlay and capture a little bit of lost attention for things like baseball. I mean, there's no question. You look at youth baseball, little leagues, softball in particular. There is not a league across the country that isn't bleeding players every year, right? Like here in Worcester, every single league we have is losing teams on the youth side. Youth soccer, I think it gained a lot of people, but not necessarily people who were really interested in the competitive side of the sport, because that was the first sport to kind of go to participation trophy type mentality. And then simultaneously, you end up with things like football that we were talking about earlier, where a lot of parents that are actually concerned about the level of head injuries that their kids are getting. I think hockey really just filled that niche, along with being something that was really popular in the suburbs that saw a huge growth in New England in terms of housing out of the urban.
I hear that is every day. Katie Burt, you were saying that they would flood the common. They would flood the town common in your hometown to play
Katie was
hockey?
actually just threatening to flood Worcester Common if you didn't meet her demands by the end of the hour.
It's true. No, yeah. Well, we were just talking about how class can play a role in who gets to play hockey, and how it, in my head, has always been, it feels like there's some sort of financial barrier in terms of the equipment and like the ice time, but also how that is offset a bit by the fact, like, living in a place that has a very long winter, and there are more opportunities, such as in the town I grew up in northern New Hampshire, where every winter they flooded the town common and you could ice skate on it.
They just put up some boards and...
Pretty much, yeah.
Nice.
To varying results. I feel like some years it was a very nice ice situation, some years less so.
They used to do this in Crumpton Park, but I feel like they haven't done it in the last couple of years. Maybe now that we have the municipal rink. Have you seen a lot of kids playing hockey on the ponds of Worcester this winter so far?
Well, not this year. The inch is like a quarter of an inch thick, dude. You don't spend enough time in hockey rinks or on. I know it's there.
I thought I saw people skating. Maybe I hallucinated them.
I skated at Elm Park last year and fell through the ice, so that's the last time I was going to do that.
I mean, it's about 40 degrees right now, so yeah, if you're thinking about going on the ice, don't assume Mike is correct on his ice depth chart that he's pulling out of the top of his head here. Yeah, no, but not this year, but... So where I live, that's kind of like one of the neighborhood responsibilities is if you're out with your snowblower, you get out there and clear off the snow into boxes so that the neighborhood kids can have ice time on that pond. Elm Park is always cleared out usually for pickup. Indian Lake a ton. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all the ice in Worcester is used at some point in time. A lot of it depends on, You can't really get perfect ice in the winter, right? So I mean, it depends kind of on the types of weather that we're having. If the ice freezes, gets covered with snow, and you can clear the snow, and it's kind of smooth, that's cool. If you end up with just like more rain and whatnot, and it gets all wavy and bumpy, then you're just gonna have crap ice, and you don't see a lot of skating taking place.
So we've established that there are more and more youth opportunities to learn how to skate and play hockey. If you're an adult who wants to skate and learn how to play hockey, are there any opportunities for you?
Yeah, there's plenty of leagues, but if you are starting from the bottom, you still can do a learn to skate program. You probably will be the only one, the oldest one there, but no shame. I teach the learn to skate program sometimes. My roommate does just basic skating skills, and then at the Worcester Ice Center we have stick and puck time, so you can just go out there by yourself with a puck and stick and your equipment and do whatever you want. It's free time for you. And then there's adult leagues all over Massachusetts, all over Marlborough. He has 8 rinks there, and then Worcester Ice Center has an adult league, so there's plenty of places for adults to learn how to do it. And there's different levels, so A through D, I think, levels, so you're not going to be the only one who's just trying hockey. So it's open for everyone. Try it.
I might.
Maybe goalie. No?
Yeah, maybe. That's the one where they, yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to let it skate. You just stand there.
Yeah, but people...
We're going to go to learn to skate night, Mike?
I know how to skate, Brendan.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
See, I actually don't. So, and I'll tell you, I've probably told you this before, but I'm embarrassed by this because I actually love hockey, but the reason I've never gotten involved, when I was a kid, hockey rink, I think it was the old one in Auburn, Mass, I think. I don't remember which rink it was. It doesn't really matter. Young kid, skating along, having a perfectly great time. This little girl next to me, little, and I mean, I was probably 7 years old. She was probably 4 or 5. Yard sailed. And some dude came up behind her hard and fast in hockey skates and went over her cute little white mitten. And I remember just slowly moving along the ice and watching that cute little white mitten just turn beet red.
Oh, no.
And then that silent sort of tearing starting in her face. And that was it. I'm just it was like a 7-year-old.
I'm about to cry from that story.
I'm done. This isn't for me. It's these dudes are savages, and they basically just cut that young woman's hand off. So I went home. That was it. Went sat on the bench until my family was done. And
that's a very sad story.
So really sad.
So good luck out there, Mike.
So is this the winter that you're gonna get on that particular horse?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's tonight's the tree lighting over at Worcester Common. Maybe I'll pop over there and try my hand at getting on the ice at Worcester Common.
Face your fear.
I still have
get
never
a face down my feet.
I still have never skated on that rink, even though I promised on this show that I would be, among the first to skate on the rink. I still have never skated behind the common.
We'll go hand in hand, brother.
The timing never works out for me.
What are you doing tonight? For the tree lighting. We'll sing some carols. We'll skate around. It'll be grand.
Yeah. Are you gonna be down there for the tree lighting?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
What time is the tree lighting? No one knows.
You could probably Google this information.
After dark.
We're being told 8 over here. It was okay.
Good guess.
Brent crude oil is $59 a barrel, down 6% on the week. Bitcoin is $4,000, down 7% on the week. Brendan, we haven't done a show in 2 weeks. Brent crude oil is down 13% since the last 2 weeks, and Bitcoin is down 27% since the last 2 weeks.
But recreational marijuana is up 150% in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so we've got that going for us, and that's pretty rad.
We had this place in Leicester that's been selling so much marijuana that everybody is mad at them for all the traffic that it's causing.
Well,
I feel like this is an angle of the war on drugs that we never dealt with, which is just too much traffic.
So I was one of the jerks who actually spent 5 hours in line at Cultivate on opening day, and but it was primarily because I'm 42 years old. I've essentially been waiting 25 years for even the concept of legalization. I wasn't going to miss out on the opportunity to tell my great grandkids that I was there when the weed store opened for the first day. The coolest thing about that day was actually Chief Hurley out in Leicester, who is probably the most vocal opposition to recreational marijuana from a police perspective in the Commonwealth. And he had an ear-to-ear smile out with that crowd all day long, just kind of being chipper and nice. And it was even to the point where you had some younger cats trying to give him a hard time about hey, but this is weird for you can't arrest us sort of thing. He's like, no, man, it's your job to make laws. I'm just here to keep the traffic flowing and make sure everybody's safe. And then you get cranks in Leicester that are going to screw up the whole damn program because there's actually traffic in the town of Leicester. to all Leicester residents, I'm really sorry that nobody has visited your town in the last 300 years, whatever, and people finally have a reason to go there. But if you look around those cars, Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maine, there were more people from Boston in Leicester, Massachusetts that day that I was there than there were people from Worcester County.
Did people have like tents
question.
set up?
No, they just stood line politely. And I mean, you listen to the people's complaining. They were talking about people urinating on lawns, traffic everywhere. Totally not the case at all. Like, that is 100% local cranks looking out their window, seeing something strange, and losing their mind.
What was the experience of walking into that store like?
It was like walking into an Apple store, except the things for sale were awesome. That's it. I mean, it's like the people were fantastic. Everything about the experience was just crazy. To think that, like, essentially overnight, you watched the like, to your point, the war on drugs change to such a degree. It was really rather amazing experience. Yeah.
So we've seen this week, we saw here's an article from the Telegram by Colin Young. Worcester, Fitchburg, Gardner marijuana shops gain provisional retail licenses. This is a place in Worcester, a place in Fitchburg, and a place in Gardner. Good Chemistry in Worcester at 9 Harrison Street. Yeah. But it says that it may still take a while for them to be able to open.
Yeah, and that's on the commission, the state commission, unfortunately, that was the one downer for this whole that whole thing 2 weeks ago for day one, and it's continuing to this point too. Again, when I was out there, I met nobody from Worcester. I didn't run into anybody from Worcester County. Fitchburg, 2 people from Fitchburg. Everybody else was from Boston or another state. And it was literally weed tourism, right? Which is, I think, what people who at least understand the industry were hoping for, right? As Massachusetts has an $18.5 billion a year revenue stream from tourism without marijuana. I think the goal was to see that squeak up a little bit because of marijuana. The commission has gone and bungled this in such a bizarre way where they're like just toying with the idea of new places coming online. So you're kind of making a really bad experience for customers who really want to come to Massachusetts to buy legal weed, and it's not an easy process to do. When realistically, every one of these places could just open up overnight.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the way that it should be done, I think, kind of like the way gay marriage was done first happens in Worcester.
Yeah.
And that you just are like, Worcester gets whatever, 15 licenses, 16 licenses?
Yeah.
How many licenses are we doing?
I think there's 12, I think they
12
put
licenses.
Out totally. But,
and you just say, like, hey, everybody, like, let's figure out how you can all open on the same day so that nobody will be peeing on anybody's yard. And not
going to scare the people of Leicester. That's
and
I mean, great for these for the Cultivate folks, because they've also obviously made a giant sack of cash, and they're going to continue to do so for the next couple months, it would seem. But it's totally a downer that it's become like a spectacle in an ongoing circus. It's going to be day one iPhone sales for the next 6 months, it seems, which is kind of a bummer.
Do either of the others of you have any comments about marijuana?
When you use the phrase weed tourism, I'm like, are there any supplementary like activities involved? I don't know. Like, is it just the driving, the buying, potentially the smoking?
Well, so I think it's very similar. The parallel would just be beer tourism, which we know is like the craft beer industry has been fuel for the American tourism industry.
Make a day of it.
Make a week of it. People travel. If you go down to the Armsby Abbey and sit there for lunch, you're more likely to meet people who are here from California, stopping in to go to Treehouse, but then stopping there for lunch on their way back to their hotel in Boston when they ship everything back to their friends in California. It's tourism for pleasure is huge. You're from Vegas, you get what I'm talking about, right?
I hear you. Yeah.
And it's when you look at Colorado, the numbers on their revenue stream for tourism went through the roof. Colorado, there's not much there unless you're into skiing and snowboarding, right? Like, or you wanted to pretend that you hung out with Hunter S. Thompson. Their revenue stream went through the roof with legalized weed, and ours probably should too. It's because we'll be the first in New England to get on board with that, and we actually have a lot to offer.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I want to ask Katie Bird a couple questions before we come to the end of the show. Katie, it wouldn't be an episode of the 508 Show if we didn't get derailed into some dumb nerd stuff. You haven't been on for a few months, but since then you've been doing your normal job of flying around the world and talking to people from television and radio. Of all of these people, I think the most excited I am is that you were able to interview Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker from Doctor Who. And since you talked to them, this new series has started. This new season has started.
This is true.
How's
it was a
going?
very quick chat. It was at New York Comic Con, and as these things tend to go, you start with like, oh yeah, you'll have 5 minutes to talk to each of them, and they're like, okay, 3 minutes, everyone, all at once, go. But yeah, that is one of the, I think, the biggest stories in pop culture this year, especially television, is that there's a female doctor on Doctor Who, which here is, I think, a bit of a niche show, but has grown a lot in the last 10 years and is huge around the world. And I've been enjoying the episodes. I know you've seen some of them too. What have you thought?
I saw one of them.
You saw one. So
I saw the first one was good, and then I saw a little bit of the one about witch hunting, and that one just seemed blah to me. I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. But I definitely have seen more. I've had more conversations with people who aren't necessarily like Doctor Who or genre fans about Doctor Who, and they've heard about it and they're curious about it. So that's exciting. I think when you're still in the midst of a season, there's still a few episodes to go. It's hard to really. You can make judgments, or you can talk about ratings, or
at least in that Stephen Moffat era, especially, he would construct things as some sort of weird puzzle on the season-long arc, and so you sort of didn't see the whole puzzle until the end of the season. So you didn't really know if what he was making was good or not until you'd seen the whole thing.
Exactly. I have seen a lot of.
Please God, let's not have that happen this season.
I have seen a lot of coverage of it that's like, I don't know, it feels like people are ready to talk about how it's not as good, or yeah. I'm enjoying it. I hope people are watching. If they haven't, you should check it out.
Have they shrunk the doctor? Have they had a tiny shrunken doctor in a birdcage yet? Because if so,
that's when Doctor Who.
You know, Brendan.
Mike, you're taking a break. More importantly,
go ahead.
When is the Avengers 4 trailer coming out? And
I have no
what are your
idea.
thoughts on Daredevil getting canceled?
I actually haven't watched Daredevil, but I am
You didn't
sad.
see any of them?
No, I haven't watched any of the Netflix Marvel
Is Daredevil
shows.
getting canceled?
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, I
canceled.
think they're all going to get canceled because Disney
Disney
is starting its
streaming,
own
yeah.
streaming service. So,
All the Netflix Marvel shows are getting canceled.
yeah, slowly.
Yeah.
Soon they'll all be gone.
And they're not going to be streaming any of their movies anymore either. Those are all starting to get peeled down as well.
Can we talk about Liam Neeson sightings now?
We should. This is the actual real pop culture news of the last couple of weeks, which is that they keep shutting down roads randomly so that Liam Neeson can shoot a movie.
It's also, I think, a fun game to. I was driving around with your roommate Justin yesterday, and whenever there's any traffic, just to be like, Liam Neeson. You know, it's probably not Liam Neeson, but it might be.
It definitely was by our house. I mean, the whole church parking lot was full of trucks and tents and things, and there were
That was
cops
the catering setup, wasn't it?
shutting down. I don't know what it was. I mean,
I think because
the
there were
whole-
signs all the way down from where the store is all the way down
Yeah.
West Street that were just arrows pointing your way for their catering for the shooting.
Well, the whole morning it was just like, what's going on? And finally somebody went out and asked the cops what it was, and they were like, oh yeah, it's this Liam Neeson thing.
Yeah.
This is great.
Well, Megan was saying that they took over Becker.
Yeah,
recently.
they shut down classes, a couple of classes at Becker for like 2 days. So kids are taking online classes because Liam Neeson was in like Elm Park.
Oh, so wait, is the Becker campus going to be in this movie?
I don't know. That'd be
He's
pretty
going to be throwing
cool.
people out the windows and stuff?
Yeah,
I was down at the hotel last night. Weren't they tossing people?
cool
out the
reason to
windows?
get
I heard,
class
yeah.
canceled.
I know,
Because they're
right?
shooting a movie.
Liam Neeson's at it again,
Yeah.
ruining, education of America's youth.
It is pretty good. I feel like we have. I feel like we have a movie. Somebody shoots a movie in Worcester every couple of years. Like what was the last one? Probably American Hustle, Sea of Leaves. One of these. But that one thing about Bruce Willis being an android.
There was
But they do these things, and it feels like they sort of shut down part of the city for a week.
Worcester, I think it was. I don't think it was Honest Thief that was being shot up at Worcester Airport earlier in the fall as well.
There you go.
This
But
one feels a
pretty
lot
good.
more visible to me.
It does.
I don't know if I'm
yes.
just paying more attention, but
Yes.
it feels like they're substantially shooting a lot of this movie in Worcester versus like we're based in Massachusetts and Boston, and we're
Right.
doing a few scenes.
Right, because it keeps just being like, what neighborhood's going to be today? What street's it going to be today?
Yeah.
Something about Worcester just really appeals to whoever's putting this together, I guess.
But that's also where I feel we get really excited. Like American Hustle was the best example of this, right?
Yes.
Like people were so excited that their favorite stars were shooting a film in Worcester.
My
and
old
then,
office window.
And the movie came out, and people realized that they came to Worcester because the director was looking for depressed 1973 Jersey City, right? And it's like, oh, thanks, guys. Like, it was cool, but it was also kind of weird. I think that's where we always have to be careful as to where they're shooting. Not necessarily that they're shooting, because the takeaway might not necessarily be something super exciting.
This might be some kind of movie where Liam Neeson's daughter is kidnapped into some sort of third world slum-based slavery ring. And so Worcester, perfect backdrop for that.
Well, I had heard, the whispers about the Liam Neeson movie, that one of the locations they were using was being used as like a drug office den.
That was the REC, wasn't it?
Yeah, the REC.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't have a press pass to this shooting, do you? It just occurs to me, why aren't they having? I mean, you could be.
I know, I could just easily cover this.
You got to get your boss to get you something. Assign you.
I like to watch it from afar. I think this is.
You can just walk from your apartment, interview Liam Neeson, and walk home, type it up. Boom, your day's done.
That is a lot closer than I usually.
It could just be like high school too, where you print up your own pass and just walk in. You don't need to ask permission.
Yeah, I don't actually have a press pass
anywhere, right? I mean, just make your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, I think that's it, man.
I want to thank everybody for being on the show. Brendan, Katie, and Megan. You guys have been heroes as usual. We didn't even talk about this report about Worcester's recycling system today. We didn't even talk about this report about Worcester's cultural plan today. We even didn't talk about common knowledge attacks on democracy today.
We
will
next
time.
About Worcester being home to the largest piggery in the United States of America.
Next time, it's all going to be all